In the 23rd century, when first contact protocols opened human cultures to xenoethicists, Joseph, a senior scholar, was assigned to study death. What he found was not a ritual. It was a pre-consented harvest of the body for strangers, numbering in the tens of millions.
This cannot be correct. Tens of millions. Willingly, my people would call this madness. And yet,
A recorded testimony played on his screen. An elderly human woman, her face peaceful, speaking of her choice. "I won't need my heart anymore. Someone else will." The words were simple, but they cut through Joseph's training like a blade. He terminated the playback. The silence in the room was heavier than the archive.
I must see this for myself.
Within the hour, he had filed a travel request to Earth to interview a living donor before it was too late. The shuttle departure bay loomed ahead, and with it, a question that would not release him. The shuttle slid through the blue curve of Earth, docking at a medical station built on a cliff overlooking the sea. Inside, the scent of antiseptic and the quiet hum of machines unsettled him more than any alien planet. "I am Dr. Chen. You wish to understand our donation protocol? After death is declared, viable organs are recovered surgically and transported to patients within hours."
They speak of harvesting their own kind like crops. It is obscene.
Every donor saves up to 8 lives. For humans, that arithmetic is sacred. Joseph followed Dr. Chen through a ward where a family was signing papers, their faces wet but determined.
They mourn, yet they consent. There is no logic here.
At the end of the hall, Dr. Chen stopped before a door with a small plaque. "Morrow, C. Mrs. Morrow agreed to speak with you. I should warn you, she has very little time." The door opened onto a room bathed in amber. A thin woman lay still, tubes and wires offering their quiet testimony, but her face was what seized him.
She has painted a skull onto her living face. She has already accepted death.
You are the xenoethicist. Please come closer. I promise I won't bite.
Mrs. Morrow, my species cannot fathom this. Why would you let your body be harvested?
Harvested. That's a cold word. I see it as passing along something I no longer need. My heart keeps beating, just not in me.
No reward, no recognition. She calculates nothing for herself. It is not a transaction. It is a hole in the logic.
Someone will wake up tomorrow with my heart and see their child's face again. What more could I want?
A nurse brought a card. Catherine took the pen, her hand thin as paper but steady, each letter a deliberate offering. The skull paint curved along her jaw, as if it too were smiling.
She is not afraid. She does not bargain. She gives, and I cannot compute it.
The hours thinned. Catherine's breathing slowed, each exhale a negotiation with silence. Joseph did not leave the chair.
She is sinking, and she is still smiling.
The heartbeat on the monitor stuttered once, twice, then drew a flat green wire across the screen. Alarms summoned Dr. Chen and a surgical team, their movements swift and practiced. "We are transporting her now. Please wait outside." Joseph pressed his back to the wall of the corridor, watching through the narrow window as they placed her body under the cold blue light.
They are going to open her. She gave consent for this.
Behind the glass, a gloved hand lifted Catherine's heart from the field and set it into a glowing preservation container.
It is still warm. It is still hers.
He did not move. The sound of the surgical tools was a quiet, terrible proof. "The recipient is in recovery. Would you like to see?" Joseph followed, drawn by a compulsion he couldn't name, to a room where a child lay still, but alive.
That is Catherine's heart, beating in that frail chest.
A woman wept at the bedside, her hands gripping the child's as though she could pull her back from the brink.
Does she know what was done to her?
"She will know only that she is loved by a stranger. That is all."
Loved by a stranger. Not a transaction, not a debt, a gift with no return.
He stood behind the door, watching the mother and child, feeling a truth he could not yet speak.
My people would call this barbaric, yet a child breathes who would not have lived.
He left the hospital that evening carrying an image that burned. Not the harvest, but the grip of a mother's hand on a child saved by a stranger's heart. That night, in the quiet guest quarters assigned to him, Joseph opened his research console and began to dig. He called up cross-cultural datasets, blood donation frequencies, marrow registries, anonymous organ chains. The numbers dwarfed even the registry.
2 billion pints of blood, 500 million volunteers, all strangers, no compensation. They treat their bodies as a shared resource. The self is not a fortress, it is a currency of the future.
He pulled his journal close and wrote in his own script, the pen pressing harder than usual.
It is not madness, it is a different calculus. They value the future more than the present self.
And beneath, a single line, it is not madness, but a different calculus.
But how do I explain this to my people? We have no word for a gift that expects no return.
The data did not soothe him. It sharpened the question into a blade.
She gave her heart. Millions give their blood, and all they ask is a future they will never see.
The next morning, Dr. Chen directed him to a garden not far from the hospital. Rows of brass plaques stretched like a silent crop.
Each one a donor, each one a stranger to the lives they saved.
He found her plaque among thousands, small and simple. Catherine Morrow, donor, beside it. A shared inscription. We give because we believe in tomorrow. No one is forgotten, for every saved life is a monument.
No ego, no demand for legacy. Just a simple trust that the future will be grateful.
He walked the paths slowly, name after name, each a quiet riot of generosity.
Not one of them knew the child. Not one of them saw the mother's tears. They gave blind into the dark of the future.
A quiet, unnameable emotion settled into his bones, heavier than disturbance, gentler than grief.
She is here, but she is also in that child. Her gift is still moving.
He left the garden carrying the weight of a question he had never asked himself before. What would he give? The journey back to his own world felt like being pulled from water into thin air. His study, once a sanctuary, now felt like a courtroom. He opened the formal report and began to type, describing the donor protocol with cold, unassailable precision.
But every clinical sentence is a lie. I am erasing Catherine's smile and leaving only the scalpel.
He saved the draft, then opened a blank addendum. The title came to him like a verdict, proposition for a voluntary non-human donor registry.
My species will call this sacrilege. The body is the sacred limit of the self. To carve it for a stranger is to unmake personhood.
He wrote long into the night, building an argument that the future could be more sacred than the corpse.
Her voice will not let me stop. What more could I want? She wanted only a future for strangers.
As the first light of dawn stained the window, he stared at the finished proposal. The submission command pulsed, waiting.
If I send this, I will be ridiculed, perhaps worse. But if I do not, then her gift dies twice.
The council chamber swallowed sound. A dozen elders sat in judgment, their robes like frozen silver.
You would have us carve up the sacred self? You have been corrupted by a death cult.
I saw a child breathe because a dead woman gave her heart. I am not corrupted. I am corrected.
You peddle human madness as ethics. The body is the temple of the indivisible self. To desecrate it for strangers is to unravel personhood.
Then what do we call it when 3 of our own die waiting for organs that could have been given? Sacred or selfish?
A cold silence answered him. One by one, the elders raised their hands against him. The high ethicist declared him ethically compromised. His proposal was struck from every archive. He walked out alone, the great doors grinding shut behind him, his career a cracked shell.
They didn't ask about the mother's hand gripping her child. They didn't ask what I saw. They think they have silenced the question. But Catherine's heart is still beating.
That night, alone in his study, he replayed Catherine's voice in his mind. The words had not dulled, they had grown roots.
She never said I. She said someone else. The self was not the point, the future was.
Before doubt could intervene, He opened a secure channel to the Human Medical Registrar. Within the hour, a document arrived, an adapted donor directive, translated into his language, awaiting a single signature. It read, I, the undersigned, authorize the post-mortem removal of my organs for the purpose of saving lives.
Post-mortem. My people will say I am unmaking myself, but I am only joining her arithmetic.
He took up a stylus. The window showed the great city glittering, indifferent. He signed. The stylus scratched once, a foreign sound in the silence.
Now I am a donor, the only one of my kind, and no one will know until I am dead.
He sealed the directive in a hidden partition of his console, a secret heavier than any censure. That night, alone in his study, he opened his journal and wrote a line that felt like an amputation of old certainties. I give because the future is more important than my bones.
Her words, now inscribed in my own hand. Catherine's calculus, translated into my script.
He closed the journal and locked it away, the key cold against his palm. The years passed without mercy. His skin dulled, his posture bent, and his name became a whisper of scandal. Colleagues averted their eyes. His office became a quarantine of silence, a museum of one man's heresy.
They think silence is defeat, but every day, a child breathes because someone gave. Soon, I will give too.
When the diagnosis forced him into a bed, he updated his directive on a datapad, ensuring no legal flaw could undo his gift. A medical officer accepted the worn document with a solemn nod, as if receiving a relic.
I am alone, but the future is still waiting. Catherine, I kept our promise.
Late in the sterile night, without witness, the breath left him. His lips shaped a single word, Catherine. The monitor flatlined, and a team in sterile garb moved with practiced grief, their hands guided by his final consent. Within hours, his kidneys and liver were transplanted into 3 of his own people, each fading, each saved by a stranger's anatomy. 3 families were told only that an anonymous altruist had given them back what they had already buried in their hearts. Joseph's body was reduced to ash in a silent chamber. No eulogy, no name, only the exact arithmetic of his quiet defiance. The secret could have died with him, a sealed testament buried in a forgotten drawer. But the registry of his gift was absolute. In a medical log, a single line appeared, unsourced donation, origin unclear. 3 lives burned with a stranger's kindness, and the first ripple struck the stone of a society that had never asked what it owed its own dead. His name would not stay hidden. The gift itself demanded a voice, a reckoning with the arithmetic of sacrifice. In the silence of the ward, the future had already begun to breathe on its own. Months later, a xenomedical journal published an anomaly. 3 citizens had received organs from a single unsourced donor, a statistical impossibility. The news rippled outward. On public screens, citizens stared at the improbable arithmetic, a gift that asked nothing and left no name. The Ethical Council, guardians of the indivisible self, convened an emergency session. Investigators traced the transplant chain to a worn directive filed in a forgotten archive. Lyra stood before them, a leather-bound journal open in her hands. She read a line aloud that cut the silence like a scalpel. I give because the future is more important than my bones. Beneath that line, they found his name, the disgraced xeno-ethicist they had censured and silenced.
We declared him corrupted, but his organs are saving lives at this very moment. What is the name for that?
The revelation erupted. Joseph's face appeared on every channel, his crime and his gift laid bare. Voices rose in the streets. He gave his body to strangers, the same man we called a heretic. The scandal became a storm. The council chambers echoed with fractured arguments. No vote was called. For the first time, the defenders of the self were speechless. Lyra turned a brittle page and read a passage written in a hand grown weak. I value the future more than my body. Catherine Morrow taught me that the gift that costs everything is the only one that matters. The words hung in the air like a verdict. 3 elders lowered their gazes. 2 more shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then the 3 recipients appeared on the chamber's screen, faces once gaunt, now filled with simple, undeniable life. One spoke, voice cracking. I do not know the name of the one who saved me, but I whisper it to my children every night.
He was called barbaric. Yet these people are alive because of his barbarism. What is our purity worth now?
Outside, the public square churned. Some shouted, "Monstrous." Others wept and called Joseph a mirror to their own cowardice. Inside the chamber, an elder rose and shook his head, not in denial, but in the slow turning of a stone.
If the highest virtue is to preserve the self, then we are the poorest species in the galaxy.
No vote was cast. Lyra adjourned the session with a trembling hand, the journal still clutched against her chest. She walked out into the corridor alone, carrying a weight that no censure had prepared her for. That night, Lyra took a shuttle to the Human Memorial Garden, alone. She found Catherine Morrow's plaque among thousands and knelt before it, the brass cold under her fingers.
This woman gave her heart to a child she never met, and we called her corrupt.
When she rose, she returned to the council with a proposal that shook the ancient chamber. She demanded a limited experimental donor registry. Named for the disgraced scholar they had silenced, the elders hesitated, but the saved lives and public outrage left no room for denial. With reluctance, they voted. The Joseph Voluntary Donor Registry was born with anonymity as its first law. At the unveiling ceremony, a cloth fell from a wall of polished black stone. 2 names shone at the summit, above, in the language of 2 worlds. Catherine Morrow, first, and beneath, Joseph, our first.
She was the first. I will make sure she is not the last.
The registry crept into existence like a held breath. Then, a year later, the first anonymous donor died and gave her organs to 2 strangers. The news did not cause outrage. It caused a silence deeper than shame. 2 families wept with gratitude, and no one called it monstrous. At the donor wall, a new name was etched beneath Joseph's. Then another, and another, until the stone began to fill. Joseph's name remained at the summit, no longer a scandal but a cornerstone. His worn journal was placed in the Hall of Records, open to a page that read, "It is not madness, but a different calculus." School groups began to visit. Young ones traced the carved names and asked questions their elders once feared.
We were so certain that the self was the highest temple, but the future was always larger.
Every life saved was a rebuttal to the old dogma, a quiet arithmetic that remade ethics 1 heartbeat at a time. Open on the journal page, a small sketch of a human heart, beside the words, "Catherine's gift."
They taught us that a stranger's future is worth more than a corpse. We will never again be the same.
Years had passed. A young human woman stepped off a shuttle at the donor wall, her fingers trembling slightly. Her name was Elena. She had been told, as a child, that a stranger's heart beat in her chest. She searched the wall for a name she had never been given, until she found it at the very top, Catherine Morrow. Her hand traced the carved letters. The stone was cold, but the gift was not. She pressed her palm flat against the wall, feeling the pulse in her wrist, the pulse that had once been someone else's. A tear slid down her cheek. She did not try to stop it. From her bag, she withdrew a single white flower and knelt to place it at the foot of the wall. A young alien child, passing by, stopped and watched. The child's parent whispered an explanation. Elena's lips formed a silent thank you, a prayer to a stranger who had asked for nothing. The child looked from the flower to the wall, and something took root that would outlive them all. Lyra, now elderly, addressed a crowd before the donor wall. Her voice carried the weight of decades.
They shamed us into virtue. Catherine Morrow and Joseph, one human, one of our own, taught us what it means to give. From this day, a scholarship will bear their names, so no child grows up ignorant of anonymous love.
Behind her, the wall held thousands of names, each a gift, each a stranger to the future. At the summit, 2 names shone as they had since the beginning, Catherine Morrow and Joseph. Below, names in endless script stretched down to the floor, a monument to generosity.
We are no longer the species that hoarded its bodies. We have become something greater.
Young aliens registered at kiosks beside the wall, signing forms without hesitation. The old fear had died. The culture had shifted. The gift that once seemed monstrous was now the most ordinary of miracles.
They changed us, Joseph and Catherine, and we will never be the same.
A young alien child stood before the donor wall, finger pointing to the highest name, Catherine Morrow. The parent knelt, pulling the child close, gathering words from a new corner of the heart. Then the answer came, simple and steady. She was a human who gave her heart to a stranger and taught us that the future outweighs the self. The child's eyes widened, the impossible arithmetic suddenly making a terrible, beautiful sense. Then, in a whisper thick with wonder, the child said, "I want to do that too." The parent embraced the child, and high above, Catherine's name seemed to glow a little brighter. A passing custodian paused, his polishing cloth still, a witness to the quiet ignition. That whisper traveled the wall like a current, past 1,000 names, and lodged itself in the stone. The future had just been given its newest guardian, one vow at a time, and the wall, silent and vast, held the promise. The view pulled upward from the whispered vow, rising along the wall's expanse, past names of teachers, miners, healers, all who had given their bodies for a future unseen. It rose until only the first two names shone, Catherine Morrow and Joseph. A beam of light broke from above, setting the carved letters ablaze, and so a dying human who asked nothing gave everything. A galaxy that could not grasp it learned to give more than they ever thought possible. The wall became the answer. A monument not to death, but to a love that refused names. At its base, a white flower, still damp, cradled against the stone. The promise, carved in stone, kept by strangers. A dying human gave their body to a stranger, and the galaxy could not grasp it until it did. Dusk settled over the donor wall, and a lone custodian approached with a soft cloth and a stepladder. He climbed to the summit name, Catherine Morrow, and began to polish the carved letters with gentle circles. The stone caught the last light, each letter seeming to exhale a quiet gratitude. It was never about the organs. It was about a question no one else had asked. What are you willing to give for a future you will never see? And because one human answered, a galaxy changed. The custodian descended, his task complete, and the wall held the first stars of evening in its polished surface. A single white flower at the base, now in shadow, remained as it had been every night. Since it was placed, the names glowed faintly in the dark. A promise carved in stone, kept by strangers, waiting for the next whisper. The night sky above the wall began to deepen, stars pricking through like scattered seeds. The donor wall remained, but the heavens opened above it, a canvas of infinite lights. From among the stars, a simple image surfaced, a signed donor card, its ink still fresh in the memory of the cosmos. The name Catherine Morrow curved across its face, the letters trembling as if in a gentle wind. The card drifted downward, its edges softening, until it dissolved into the polished stone, where it met the wall. The word first blazed once, then settled into a steady, warm glow. And the future, once a stranger, became a friend. The image held for a heartbeat, then slowly, tenderly, faded into the dark. A final breath of light from the wall, then silence, and the stars alone remained. And somewhere in that dark, a beat continued, one that had once belonged to a woman who asked nothing.